Good afternoon, friends. From today we are going to start series of lectures on corporate tax introduced in UAE. So we would divide it into few important questions. Today I would be discussing on the four important questions which you need to know while you are starting business in UAE, or you already have an entity in UAE. So first is a small background on the reason or the logic of why corporate tax was introduced in UAE. Second is which are the entities to whom tax is not applicable or which are excluded, and automatically also we will discuss what are included, who are included. Third is from when is the corporate tax applicable, and last one for today's lecture would be whether corporate tax will be applicable to free zone entities. So only a small background of why corporate tax was introduced in UAE. So all these tax haven countries like BVI or Cayman Island or UAE for that matter, those were being used by large corporate giants to minimize their tax and still be within the legal framework of the domestic tax laws. So while that was being happening since many years, the OECD countries or the countries who are members of OECD started discussion on these kind of tax planning, or you can say tax evasion, and then they came to a conclusion of global minimum tax to be applied to all entities. Of course, there are threshold, turnover limits, etc. We will not go into that because that is a separate lecture altogether. But basic logic is that to disincentivize or demotivate such kind of structure, global minimum tax rules were brought, and all the 137 countries agreed on that. So that tax rule states that in spite of the domestic country having no tax or low tax, whatever tax rate it may be in tax haven countries, but by this introduction of global minimum tax, the entity as a whole will have to pay the differential tax in their home country. So in spite of the country where it has its operations, even if it doesn't levy tax, the gap between the global minimum tax and that tax will have to be borne by the entity. So with that, UAE had to either come under the same umbrella, or even if it stayed out, the entity had to pay tax in its home country. So even if its operations were in UAE. So UAE also, in line with the principles of global tax, or what the international tax is moving towards, UAE introduced corporate tax. However, it is still one of the lowest taxing countries because the tax rate is 9%. So now moving on to second question of who are the entities to whom it's excluded and to whom it's included. So let's discuss whom it's excluded. So automatically, if we remove that, to all others it will be included. So exclusions are broadly to government entities or government owned entities, oil and gas companies, and private funds. So apart from that, all other entities doing business. So while corporate word is confusing, what it really means is that all the business profits will be taxable, but salary, rent, the individual income, personal income, interest, all those will not be taxable. But corporate tax doesn't mean that only if you have company that profits is taxable. Whatever form you are registered as business, whether it be LLP or private or whatever form. If it's a business profit, it will be taxable. If it's individual income, it will not be taxable. Also, important thing to note is that only taxable profits above 3,75,000 dirhams will be taxable. Below that, it's still zero tax. So, all other entities, other than what I told about who are being excluded, all other entities will be taxed. Of course, only if it crosses the threshold limit, which currently is 3,75,000. Now, moving on to the other important question, whether free zone entities will be taxed. So, free zone, it's not a very clear answer, but if free zone entities earn the income which qualifies as a zero tax, and it earns only that income which is qualified as a 0% tax, then it will qualify and it will not have to pay any tax. But if it earns certain income within the land of UAE, and if it doesn't meet certain conditions for which it has been given 0% tax eligibility, then for that part of income it will still have to pay 9%. So it's not clear-cut answer, but yes, in general, if your free zone income is a qualified income for 0% tax, then yes, a free zone still enjoys the benefit of 0% tax. And also one question I forgot is that from when it is applicable. So you must have read a lot that it's applicable from 1st June. But yes, while that is correct, but practically it's very less likely that your entity will have to pay tax from 1st June, because what it says is that the period after 1st June, so only if your entity's year, tax filing year is after June, so say June, July, August, so from June to June or from July to July, then it will be applicable immediately. But most of the entities there follow calendar year. In that case, the profits from 1st Jan 2024 will be taxable and not this year's profit, because this is still the old year. So from 1st Jan 2023 to 31st December 23 profits will not be taxable. So it's not that half year is exempt and the other half will be taxable. No, only if your entity follows any year other than calendar year, and if it falls after 1st June, then it will be applied immediately. Otherwise, if you follow calendar year, then your profits only after 1st Jan 2024 will be taxable. Thanks. Any questions regarding this 4 basic FAQs which we discussed, you can post. The other questions we will be dealing with in the next lecture.